Hey, welcome back to my channel today. Today I'm coming to you from my son's bedroom. It's the only room in the house I could actually film in today because my son's utilizing his playroom, and so here I am. That's why I see some stuffed animals behind me. You see Darth Vader up there on the shelf, the Back to the Future car over there. He likes kind of the same stuff I do, which is cool. But yeah, today I want to talk about 1990's Death Warrant, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I did an 80s movie yesterday in Commando, and this movie is technically an 80s movie. It was made before 90. I think it was made in 89. It wasn't released until September of 90. And that was due to the fact this movie was financed by Canon Pictures. And right around this time when Canon Pictures had a lot of financial difficulties, and they actually went bankrupt before this movie was released, and the movie ended up getting released by United Artists and MGM. Because funny enough, this movie was made before Lionheart, another Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and Lionheart made it out first because it was distributed by a different company and financed by a different company. So this movie was delayed in getting out to the masses. In this movie, Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Burke. He's a Canadian policeman in LA trying to track down a serial killer named the Sandman because he killed his partner in Canada. The Sandman is played by a character actor named Patrick Kilpatrick. And kind of, if I had to describe this movie, if you've ever seen the movie Silent Rage with Chuck Norris in it, which is basically Chuck Norris fighting Michael Myers, it's kind of what it's like, though this guy isn't Michael Myers. He's a human that was genetically altered by science, and then Chuck Norris has to defeat him. If you've never seen it, it's cheesy, but it's a cool little action film from the early 80s. And that's what this movie kind of reminded me of, is Jean-Claude Van Damme's version of Silent Rage. Only in this one, the killer has more personality for sure. He talks a lot more, and but he is kind of still indestructible in some ways because he goes through a lot of shit, and yet he's still coming at Jean-Claude Van Damme. Also in this movie is Cynthia Gibb. She plays Amanda. Art LaFleur is in this movie as the prick prison warden, and Robert Guillaume, I don't know if I said his name right. He was in Benson back in the day, All in the Family, and several other projects, but he's in this movie as well. And basically this movie is Van Damme's character goes to Los Angeles, catches the Sandman by shooting, well, he thinks he kills him, shoots him many times, and he gets called back to LA a couple years later, maybe a year later, and they want him to infiltrate the prison system because they know there's corruption going on. And there's people dying, and they don't know what's going on, so they want to send a cop in, somebody they've worked with before. So he goes in, and his contacts this Amanda, girl who works with this other guy who has something to do with the prison system, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So as Burke gets in prison and starts meeting the prisoners and trying to figure out what's going on in the prison, why are all these prisoners dying, all kind of in similar ways, and they start uncovering that all the prisoners are the same blood type, and they have no diseases, they're healthy. And then as it goes on, Burke discovers that their organs are getting removed, and it looks like they're being shipped somewhere. And as he keeps getting closer, him and Amanda, all of a sudden, well, more people try to kill him in the prison. And he fights them off in Van Damme style. You gotta have that roundhouse kick and, slow motion kicks. And eventually, all of a sudden, the Sandman gets transferred to that prison. And basically, he's because the gentleman who brought him there to infiltrate the prison is actually in on it. He's trying to save his wife, trying to find the right organ to replace her liver. I think it's her liver. I just watched it last night. I can't remember. I think it's her liver, so she can live. And Burke has the same blood type and is healthy. So he has the Sandman transferred there to kill Burke. And this is pretty much where we have our final battle. All the prisoners get let loose, and Burke has to fight for his life with some comrades that he has inside, and he has to fight his way out. And at the end, we have our main fight with the Sandman. And it's a pretty good fight. It's decently shot. Obviously, the Sandman's made to be almost indestructible. He can't be killed. Because Van Damme does a lot of stuff to him, and he continues to live. And finally, Van Damme kills him, and it's the end of the movie. Now, this movie was directed by a gentleman. I have notes, so if you see me, I'm looking at my notes. It's directed by a guy named Darren Safran. This is one of the few movies I've ever seen that he ever actually did. He did some other films, but then he worked mostly in TV up until today, present day. He it's decently shot for a low budget action movie. The movie was made for $4 million and it made about 16.8 upon theatrical release. I remember renting this as a kid from the video store. Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, Broad Street Video. I remember renting it with my friends and watching it on weekends. And we rented this movie quite a bit because it was cool. This guy, it's like, this cop that's against this indestructible killer. It was kind of a cool concept, even though it had been done before. Chuck Norris in Silent Rage, and obviously Michael Myers if you want to go in the horror genre. But the Sandman's a good villain. They don't say why he's kind of indestructible or hard to kill. He just is. You have to accept that going into the movie, or as the movie goes forward, that he's just hard to kill. And which is funny, Hard to Kill is the name of Steven Seagal movie that I'll review eventually because I'm kind of in the 80s action mood. But I don't like Death Warrant. It's not great. I mean, Van Damme's movies, Van Damme was never my favorite action star, though he has some movies I like. The Universal Soldier, Hard Target, John Woo's first U.S. movie. I like this movie. I like Lionheart. I like Bloodsport. I like Kickboxer. I even like a movie he did in the 90s called Nowhere to Run and Sudden Death. And then after Sudden Death, even Time Cop's not bad. After Sudden Death, though, Van Damme kind of went. He did that movie with the basketball player. Can't remember his name. Double Team. And then after that, his movies kind of all went direct to video. And he never really made it back to the big screen until he was in The Expendables 2. But I like Van Damme enough. He's not my favorite action star from that period. But I like this movie. I watch it, probably about once a year. I enjoy this movie. It's over the top and everything, and it's played seriously, but you got to take, like I said, you got to buy into it. The Sandman's just hard to kill, and that's pretty much it. But I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's a fun action movie from 1990, and you can enjoy it. There's some good fights in there. They're decently shot. You can see the moves and everything, and at the end of the day, you just want you to have a good time, and that's pretty much it. It's not thought-provoking in any way. It's just a fun time at the movies. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me for Death Warrant. That's it for me. I will be back soon with another review. Thanks. Have a great one.